Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hello there, God damn, and welcome to the Last Time Film Podcast, where we talk film, TV,
Just
and
keep
games,
going. Just keep going.
and all that
Yeah.
jazz. Like there is no tomorrow. My name is Tom, and as always, I'm joined with my co-host John. I really blanked through that. I really sometimes.
It's
sometimes
fine
I really
because
can't do the intro.
Every podcast doesn't really need that strong intro, but we're human. It doesn't matter. Hey,
We are human.
it's me.
You're human?
Am I?
Whoa.
And
How are you
yeah.
this week?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. You?
Yeah, no, I'm quite good. Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking, as always, as we've been doing for the last few weeks, we'll be doing Falcon and Winter Soldier, but our main segment this week is going to be Star Wars Clone Wars, the 2D micro series, and of course we'll be doing news as always. So, time codes in the description, and let's jump into it with some casting news for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to start filming this month, John. This month.
Woo,
So I'm expecting maybe some like set pictures or I don't know if you remember way back in 2018 maybe there was like a Mandalorian, like they released the image of the Mandalorian with like a little synopsis about what it was going to be about. But this time we have loads and loads of casting news. So we'll start off immediately. They have confirmed that the actors for Owen and Beru Lars from the prequel, so that's Luke's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, will be coming back for Obi-Wan. So they will be, so presumably Obi-Wan might interact with them in some capacity, which sounds cool. And then there's some, a lot of unknown ones. So Sung Kang, who people will know from Fast and Furious, who played Han, whose full name is Han Solo, is going to be in the show. So that's really cool as like a little, full circle thing.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but that's a full circle right there.
Yeah. Benny Safdie, who people know from director of Uncut Gems and starred and directed A Good Time. And Indira Varma, who was recently cast in The Flash as Nora Allen. And then Kumail Nanjiani, who, comedian who is about to be in The Eternals. So yeah, loads of kind of, interesting casting news. What are you kind of expecting from this show?
This is a very, very interesting cast. I mean, you got Ice Cube's son. You got it's O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's Ice Cube's son.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then, but again, this looks really, really cool. I'm expecting I don't know, a very different show because it's going to be centered around Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think that it's going to be quite packed, like all of this cast. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where this goes, and yeah.
I agree. I love Obi-Wan. I love Ewan McGregor in the role. I love Hayden Christensen. And, the idea that we're going to get to see them have that rematch is...
Yeah, the rematch.
Really exciting and a really interesting idea. But similarly, for Star Wars news, we got a new kind of full trailer for The Bad Batch.
Yes.
So... loads of things, like there are loads of kind of confirmation characters that we got in this one. So obviously we already knew that Fennec Shand was going to be in it, but we get to see a bit of her in action, get to hear Ming-Na Wen playing her. One of the things that I'm wondering, maybe this show will show us a bit of her and Boba Fett. A lot of people kind of assume that they know each other from the past, so you might get to see her and Boba Fett meeting or working together when they were younger. You get to see Saw Gerrera, who obviously has been in so much Star Wars. He was in Jedi Fallen Order, The Clone Wars, Rogue One, Rebels. So he's back, played by his original actor, so not played by Forrest Whitaker this time. There is a new kid who looks like a young clone, but a girl called Omega. And then, of course, Rex, everyone's favourite clone trooper. Well, not everyone's favourite, but a lot of people's favourite. So he's confirmed to be in it, which is really, really cool. And they also confirmed that the first episode is going to be 70 minutes long.
Ooh, okay. So, yeah.
Obviously, Clone Wars and Rebels had 22-minute episodes. But this is going for 70 minutes for the first episode. What do you think?
Yeah, from the trailer, I'm already interested because it looks really, really good. Like with the animation and the one thing I'm really impressed is that the voice actor D. Bradley
Baker. Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna play as Hunter, Crosshair, Tech, Wrecker, Echo, and as the whole Grand Army of the Republic.
Yeah, he's rolling in it. I mean, obviously, I know you haven't watched the Clone Wars, but people who've watched the Clone Wars will know that he has played so many clones, and the skill that he has is he's so good at bringing life to all of them. And might I just say, he also plays Perry the Platypus in Phineas and Ferb. So,
does he?
Yeah, he makes the noise, the noise. Yeah, that's him. Google it.
Right?
Google it. No, it's true.
No. Right.
No, I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I think it was just some platypus maybe.
It's him. It's him. Yeah. Because I recently rewatched all of Phineas and Ferb on Disney Plus, and every episode it would end, and in the credits it would say D. Bradley Baker, and I'd be like, oh my god, what is it? Well, like I kept on thinking to myself, I wonder what he does, and so I eventually Googled it, and it was Perry the Platypus all along. I know.
Does he get paid? But like every noise he makes with the.
Yeah, you would get paid for each time you did it.
I just imagine him just walking into the studio and go, "Hey guys, okay, so is it just like today, or do I need some action into it, or do I just need more emotion into it? Just do the same as always." Oh, okay.
No, that's a good. Maybe he came in once to film the first episode to record it, and then they were just like, "Yeah, we never need you ever again. Like, you can just stay at home, and then we'll just reuse that same."
If we need you some emotional scene with Perry, just that emotional thing he does every time, just add some emotion, like Leonardo DiCaprio style,
He should win an Oscar for that performance. But it's interesting because you have to relicense those recordings every time you use them. So you're right, he probably would have got loads of money just for doing that one sound.
Yeah, it's like Vin Diesel voice acting for Groot.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does say it in loads of different ways.
That's true. Well, I always thought to myself, why is Vin Diesel still playing Groot at this point? Well,
I think it's just for fun, really.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but it's like I'm sure he costs money, for Disney to get, and it's like you don't. I feel like at this point you don't really need him, but maybe there's a process that I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trailer. I don't know why, but it's just so, like, very flowing. It's smoother than like when I'm watching like the older, like in chronological time. It's like a bit. I don't know. It's a bit rigid, the animation,
yes.
But this one is just like so smooth, 100%. And I just really like it. It's just
a
bit more.
Obviously, the first 6 seasons were made between 2008 and 2014, and you can see, especially in the first season, especially in the movie, the animation is super, super clunky. The facial expressions, there's a lot of it that you look at and you're like, but then when each season it gets better, and then from season 6, obviously being 2014, maybe 2015, and then season 7, which is 2020, in that 5-6 year gap, the animation gets so good, and it is, as you said, super smooth, and I really, really like how it looks. You'll see towards the end of the Clone Wars, especially there are just some, in the Bad Batch arc of the Siege of Mandalore is really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. And I said to you about the Bad Batch, when I watched it in chronological order, season 3, episode 1, there was a group of clones trying to pass to the first stage of doing combat with teamwork as well. Just this test, and I said, "Oh, is this the Bad Batch?" And Tom was like, "No, you stupid."
No, well, that's Domino Squad, and they are that's one of the best episodes, just for clone content. You really get that kind of perspective in the Clone Wars of the clones kind of training, and especially in Domino Squad, you get Echo and Fives, who are two of the most prominent clone troopers throughout the whole show, and you really go on an emotional journey with them. It is pretty damn emotional in some points. I'm sure we actually have, if I just look at the schedule for the pod, we have a week where we don't have anything to talk about, and maybe it's a good idea to talk about something from the Clone Wars. I have a specific arc in mind that is really, really good before the Bad Batch. The Umbara arc. Just wait, season 4. It's incredible. It draws parallels to the Vietnam War and about the way that generals can use the soldiers to just as disposable things and not people. It's brilliant. Yeah, you're in for a treat.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited. It's coming out May 4th.
May 4th, with a 70-minute premiere May 4th with the next episode coming out on May the 7th, and then each Friday from then. So didn't
talk about it. So
yes, we will be able. We're going to do an episode on the first 2 episodes on the 9th of May, and then we will be continuing every week doing it like we did with WandaVision, like we're going to do with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I do think it's interesting just to point out that they only specified that episode 1 is going to be 70 minutes, not all of them. So a lot of people are thinking that maybe each episode is going to be 70 minutes, and that will be like an arc. In the Clone Wars, an arc would be 3 episodes telling one long story. People are wondering whether the Bad Batch is going to tell those story chunks. I think that'd be really cool.
Story chunks, yeah.
Big old chunks.
Big old chunky chunk.
Oh yes. But in other trailer news, should I say, we've actually got a trailer for Rick and Morty season 5, which is
season 5, baby. Yeah.
And that's coming in June. So as always, loads of crazy antics going about with Rick and Morty. What did you think of the trailer?
So a while back, I think so there was a mini concept thing. So it was showing the first few minutes of the episode, but in sketches.
Oh really?
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube. That was for season 5. So and it's really it gets you hooked in what's going on really in the first episode, in the first few minutes. But with the trailer, what you said is there's a lot of crazy stuff in this one. I feel that's every Rick and Morty season that's going
definitely.
on. Everything that is just crazy. So I'm. What do you think of season 4? Was season 4? I don't know. Was it?
I mean, 4. So I watched season 4 as it aired, and there was a 4-month gap in between episode 5 and episode 6, and I really thought that they kind of, it kind of lost me in the middle, the episodes, and I feel this is a problem with season 3 as well. Some of the episodes began to become a little bit repetitive, and they kind of stopped,
Oh yeah, that was the problem.
progressing the characters. I thought the season 4 finale was really good. I really enjoy the stuff where they advance character and the overarching kind of plots. Stuff like the episode with the Citadel is my favorite episode in Rick and Morty. Not just because it does the whole evil Morty thing, but because it has loads to say at the same time. And I think that sometimes season 4 lost that. And so I hope that season 5 brings back that kind of element of that commentary while being able to progress. I don't need to see evil Morty, but it would be cool to see some of those threads coming back in some way.
Yeah, and sometimes with season 3 or 4, there was a lot of background story. There's a background story throughout the seasons, but it's just very, very vague. It's not there, but it's just you don't know what's going to happen. But what you said is it is repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm just hoping there's a lot of more story content, and not being repetitive, but more into Evil Morty and or something like that.
Aside from the obvious kind of toxic fandom in Rick and Morty, which has definitely become a problem.
The fandom. Oh god. Do you remember when the session?
Oh boy, do I remember that! Yes, of course.
Yes. There was a clip of a guy
in McDonald's.
He got onto the counter. He said, "I need my Szechuan sauce."
Yeah, that was. I mean, I know you're laughing about it, but that was pretty intense. Pretty horrible. Properly harassing staff members.
That really happened. I just can't believe that fan base actually. I'm just laughing about it.
So obviously that was kind of.
No, it's just funny about the fan base. It's just they get too serious about it.
Definitely.
You don't have enough IQ to watch Rick and Morty or something. You don't.
You just don't understand it. But it's aside from that, I do feel season 3 and 4 have kind of dipped in quality as opposed to seasons 1 and 2. I've actually been watching another Justin Roiland property on Disney Plus called Solar Opposites. Season 1 literally just finished yesterday, and it's I'm much preferring it to Rick and Morty because that is that era of freshness about it, and I hope it doesn't become as popular, only because I don't want that kind of same polarization of Rick and Morty. I guess the kind of stigma to kind of seep into other things.
Oh! Wait until you see aliens coming down and talking about solar opposites. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just coming down and going, "Oh yeah, Rick and Morty, solar opposites." Yeah, I don't know, just like that. Yeah. So. Season 5, June. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will. Maybe we will. There is no spoon.
There is no... Ooh, I like that. But before that, we actually have Knives Out news. So, obviously, Rian Johnson has been working on sequels to Knives Out with Daniel Craig for a while now. But they have now been confirmed to be on Netflix, and beyond that, the second film will begin filming in late June in Greece. So no cable net sweaters this time, it seems. But yeah, Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig are kind of teaming up again, and yeah. So you've seen the first Knives Out?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, it was great. My family did not like the film at all, but this is it's like the opposite of a mystery film.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought that the cast was wonderful and the way that it was all put together was very good. I think it wasn't quite as intelligent as it thought it was. I feel like the perspective that you follow, obviously Marta's as the main character, you follow her perspective and on the main murder, and you get loads of different kind of small details about how all the family have this kind of alibi. But I did feel like, the final kind of twist, like, oh my god, it was them. I was like, yeah, I could have told you that from the beginning. It wasn't like a huge revelation. And the steps they kind of took to get there it felt not as good as I kind of hoped it would be. But there we go. But yeah, what do you think about the idea of like doing sequels though?
Yeah, to Knives Out. Okay, that is tricky because as like one movie, that is a good movie, but there's like it's not too impactful, not too intelligent, but it is enjoyable to see those actors interact and to explore more of the characters. But having a sequel, now that is a challenge because maybe they won't do the same thing in the first one because we've already seen that. But if they do it differently, this could be quite interesting. But we'll see.
Yeah, obviously the first film kind of marketed itself as a whodunit like no other. And if you do sequels, immediately you kind of lose some of that freshness. So I hope that they can maintain that freshness. But on the same level, I don't, obviously Rian Johnson's also supposed to be doing a Star Wars trilogy. I don't really want him to at this point. I'm satisfied with what Star Wars is doing, otherwise. And I think, a lot of people hated The Last Jedi, a lot of people loved it. So there's going to be that kind of polarization with him making more Star Wars. But at the same time, I don't want him to go on and make his own films and then just make another franchise. I think he has such talent, like having seen most of his films, Brick, Looper, Last Jedi, and Knives Out, they're also distinct and also different. I'd like to see him kind of not just do another Star Wars, do another Knives Out. I'd like to see him try something different, properly like fresh and unique.
You kind of glitched out there for me. I did.
But basically, I'd like to see him do something else.
Oh, okay, cool.
But actually, there's been loads of kind of cancellations this week for DC. So DC announced that two of their films that they've been working on for quite a while. So their Trench film, which is an Aquaman spin-off based around the Trench, James Wan was attached to kind of like referencing his horror roots. That's been cancelled. And the New Gods film, centering around Darkseid and Big Barda and Granny Goodness, which was being written by Ava DuVernay and Tom King, have also been cancelled.
Working on this?
Yeah. So Tom King was one of the writers, as well as Ava DuVernay. And although they did confirm that the Supergirl film is still going ahead, they have put that on hold. Their excuse for this being that they thought that Darkseid being in Zack Snyder's Justice League would make it too confusing for them to make a New Gods film. The two writers on New Gods have been extremely kind of upset about this. They've been put on Twitter about how they thought they had something really, really good that they were going to show everyone. But what do you think about this? This is quite unfortunate, really.
Long sigh. Yeah. So
a long sigh really sums it up for me.
Yeah. So I don't get this. I feel like that Warner Brothers is trying to put the blame on the Snyder Cut, saying, "Oh, sorry, the Snyder Cut made things a lot worse. So we'll cancel some more of the stuff that could be really interesting, and and let's put the blame on that one as well." So that's what that's what I'm thinking. What they're trying to do.
I 100% agree with you. I would have loved. I wasn't that bothered about a Trench film. It would be cool to see James Wan kind of flex his horror kind of skills, but I wasn't hugely invested in that. But a New Gods film sounded really cool. And the idea that they just said, "Oh no, it's the Snyder Cut's fault," even though they are trying to build this multiverse. Like, how can you build a multiverse if you're unwilling to do two separate versions of someone like Darkseid, who's such a small character? How are you expecting people to latch onto different Batman and different Flashes or whatever they want to do, different Supermen? The whole thing is just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and it could be really interesting to see like different. Gods in this show. Is it a show or movie?
Movie.
Movie. Right. Movie. Movie. She said.
Movies.
Okay. Yeah, the audio's being a bit weird. So yeah. Like seeing different versions. And you know, it just annoys me, man. Like we could have seen like a spin-off of the Trench in the show, and it could be really interesting. But I feel like that one of the brothers is trying to compete with Marvel, and I feel like they're just being a bit, I don't know, a bit angry. I don't know, because
I don't know if they're trying to compete with Marvel. I think that they're just trying to distance themselves more and more from
what I mean. That's why
the Snyder Cut.
Trying to be different, but
I think their thinking was, we don't want to continue the Snyder Cut. We really don't want to continue the Snyder Cut. People want us to, so let's try and distance ourselves as much as possible. I mean, who knows what's next? They might, want to, delay the Wonder Woman film, Wonder Woman 3. They might want to, take Batfleck out of the Flash film, or maybe just delay the Flash film in general. Like, it seems like they're just taking huge steps to try and make it so the Snyder Cut is on people's minds.
Yeah, and it just annoys me. I wish that one of the brothers, think carefully about the things in the future, but we'll see what they're trying to do, and I feel like they're just trying to get rid of like creative control, and then make it a bit worse. I don't know. I'm
sure they have some sort of plan behind this. I guess.
Yes.
As Apocalypse says, all will be revealed. Oh, and he's gone. He's dead. He's lost in the time. So our next segment, he's back.
I don't know what happened. You just disappeared.
You disappeared too.
Oh, right.
It's a mystery for all of time. But I was just about to
all the time.
I was just about to introduce our next segment, which is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
Let's talk about episode 3. If you haven't seen it already, get out. Spoilers, of course.
Get out.
But we got much to talk about. Namely,
I don't know. Watch it, because it is long episode. This one, so
it is. It is. Definitely. So what did you think of it?
I really like this one as well. I feel like this one was like exploring more of like Bucky's control, with Zemo, and I feel like there's like a lot more like looking into Zemo. I feel like that Zemo wasn't really explored more in Civil War. I think he's just there like being the villain, but we can't understand what his motivations. But we see him in this TV show, in this episode, like working together, and it's pretty interesting to see. You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think immediately this was definitely my least favorite episode so far, but that does not mean that it still wasn't awesome. I really enjoyed it.
I liked it, but
I agree with you. It's really good to see more of Zemo. I didn't dislike him in Civil War, but I did think that this is the perfect opportunity for them to develop him, and immediately, I think that he adds such a fresh new perspective. Not just as a villain, not just as a Sokovian, as somebody who's looking into the hero's perspective, into the American perspective. It's really interesting just to see him come in and make these kind of observations and add just a different dynamic to the group. And I really liked him. I really enjoyed some of the ways they added to his kind of character, with him now being confirmed to be a Baron, straight from the comics. I love his coat. I love his hood, I guess, or is it a helmet? It's more of a hood, I guess. But yeah, I thought Zemo was definitely the highlight of this episode as something new, character-wise.
Seeing that character development with Bucky and with Sam, and there's a lot of references in this show. Sorry, I keep saying show. It's episode, John. It's episode.
John, it's an episode. It's an episode.
The place what was the place that they go to and meet?
Yes, I know you mean.
Selby. Yeah, Selby. That's the name. The place. Right, let me just think of the place. Is it to meet? I don't know how to say it.
I'm googling it. Okay, well, I know you mean. That's a Madripoor. So that's actually that's in the comics and is actually associated with the X-Men. I'm not too familiar with it, but yeah, so that's quite cool that it's that kind of connection.
Yeah,
with that.
And there's like some references stuff that was connected to the character Wolverine. Like there was like a shop. I forgot the name of the shop, but it was like associated with Wolverine. It's that I looked, and it looked. Yeah, it's going to be interesting if Marvel's going to introduce a character from the X-Men.
Well, it certainly feels like they're doing that kind of slowly. WandaVision obviously had Evan Peters, and then this has got like Madripoor and stuff like that. There's interesting stuff that seems to be happening. I saw someone talk about, obviously Zemo talks about how Sokovia, or what's left of Sokovia, has become cannibalized. And kind of split, and somebody was talking about how this could possibly be the kind of springboard for Latveria. People who don't know, Latveria is the nation that Doctor Doom controls in the comics. So there's loads of interesting kind of avenues they could take. But the thing is that I'm really glad that because I feel like a lot of WandaVision was set up for the future, set up for Doctor Strange, set up for Captain Marvel too, but this didn't feel like it was setting stuff up. It still felt grounded in the plot and in the character. There was a lot more plot in this episode, but it was in the characters. So I think, you bring up a good point about Bucky and Zemo. One of my favourite scenes was when Bucky goes full Winter Soldier, the music does the whole Winter Soldier thing, and Zemo comments on the fact that, it doesn't take much for Bucky to kind of slip back into it. And obviously, between Civil War and Infinity War, Bucky just kind of goes to sleep, wakes up in Wakanda, and he's fine. He doesn't go through, like, a huge transition, he doesn't go through, but the thing that I love about this show is that he doesn't just let go of the Winter Soldier and move forward. I think it's Isaiah in episode 2 who said, you think you get to choose what you be? You don't get to choose, they choose for you. And it's interesting seeing that, he can still just snap back into that Winter Soldier mindset even without the code words. He still has, PTSD about the whole thing. I think that's very, very cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing, and Bucky revisiting Zemo, and that was a bit of tension, when Zemo was saying the words back in Civil War that triggered that, makes him into a murderer or a killer.
Yes, that was very immediate. I mean, everybody, welcome back to the segment where Tom talks about how much he loves the score in Falcon Winter Soldier. Immediately, when they showed Zemo, they played his motif from Civil War, and I was just like, yes, this is so cool, it's amazing, I'm in love. And then they obviously, he said the words, and I really enjoyed just that one scene of Zemo being that kind of Hannibal Lecter-esque, villain behind bars. Obviously the one thing that I would have preferred to see more of that. I thought the prison break was a little bit rushed, but it's also great to see him on the move. Showing himself as a baron, and as I said, observing how Falcon and Winter Soldier interact and operate from an outsider perspective.
Yeah, and what else? Yeah, we get to see more of the Flag Smashers. Oh yeah, no, at the start of the TV show. John, come on, man.
John, it's an episode. We're talking about an episode.
Episode. Okay, get it in your head. Get in your head.
Get your head in the game.
At the start of the episode, there was the global. I don't know what's the full name.
Yeah, global peace something.
It's the global council something. Saying about, you got into 5 years and we'll help everyone, families, friends, all that. And that reinforces the idea of the flag smashers trying to help the with everyone who are really suffering in in the time in the 5 years, or you need some help, and they really want to help, but the world is
global repatriation council.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And to think about those characters who are trying to help those in need, you kind of appreciate them more, but you don't know what they could do something, because they're super soldiers. But again, with John Walker trying to get them, and it's there's two stories. The perspective, John Walker don't like the Flag Smashers, and they see them as trying to he sees them trying to take over the world or something. But if you see the Flag Smashers perspective, and they're trying to help, so it's pretty interesting to see how John Walker realizes the truth, or
it's interesting showing this immediately. The Global Repatriation Council, that's a mouthful. I'll tell you what. The GRC immediately, it begins with this this kind of. It reminded me of Moon, right?
Moon.
The film Moon. It starts with a video where it's look at the GRC are these wonderful people. We're helping the world, and then it cuts to a GRC van full of Captain America and SWAT people ready to instill fear and attack people, and immediately you see that kind of the face of this corporation isn't what it is, isn't what it's really operating under. And you also see that people don't respect Captain America. They don't care that he is supposed to be Captain America. And the guy overseas, he says to the John Walker says to the guy, "Do you know who I am?" And the guy's like, "I don't care." He spits in his face. And I really enjoy seeing that struggle. Where this episode was quite John Walker heavy. Light, should I say? Sorry. There wasn't much of him in there, but I really enjoyed the stuff that we did get of him, because there's that questioning of he still doesn't feel like he's ready for the mantle, and I feel like this could manifest itself in dangerous ways. He could get the super soldier serum to use on himself. I feel like that would be something like that could happen, and yeah. I think the Flag Smashers, the idea that they want to help people and they're being peaceful, but then they become, in the scene where Carly blows up a building, and then and then the other guy's like, "Whoa, there are people in there," and she's like, "Oh, violence is the only language they understand." You start to see that they're kind of turning into something more dangerous themselves, because they're losing their way of what they were originally fighting for. It starts with them blowing something up, but then how many more people have to kind of die for that?
And so Sharon Carter,
yes,
so I'm very happy to see her again, because she was left out mostly throughout Marvel.
She was.
Like, I mean, when was the last time? Civil War.
Civil War.
Civil War was like 2016, and here we are in 2021. 5 years later.
Well, remember, this show's set in 2023, so it's been 7 years for them.
Jeez. Well, unless you got blips.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That was snaps.
Yeah.
Oh well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to see her again, and more of a character development between Sam and Bucky, and it's interesting to see how she tries to help them, but then she's under government conditions to do the stuff that is happening around. And you know what I mean? Like,
yes, she can't go back to
the olden days. The old days where I helped you and
the olden days. No, but it is interesting. Everyone there. Sam, Steve, Natasha. Even Wanda and Vision. They all got pardons. Eventually, but Sharon's still on the run. She's still reaping those consequences for helping them out. It's interesting because it not only comments on the fact that that these heroes are idolized, and she even says that that there's a hypocrisy in the idolization of these heroes, but it also comments on the fact that she was literally there for 2 movies to be a love interest, and then she was gone. They gave her so much more personality in this episode, and she has so much more kind of weight to the plot. And she's pretty badass as well, like in the action scenes and stuff. It makes the character so much more fleshed out than just a love interest for Captain America. A weird love interest as well, now that technically she's his niece. So that's all very strange. But now they've kind of gone back and given her a bit more weight, and I really appreciate that. There's this whole kind of commentary about how the government they serve and the heroes they are.
Yeah.
Aren't what they're idolizing. They're much better. They're much worse. Sorry. It's like the Winter Soldier in many ways, but I would argue better, because they don't just say, oh yeah, no, but S.H.I.E.L.D's being controlled by Hydra. It is just the American government are doing the wrong thing, and going and not doing right by many people. So I really, really appreciate all that.
Yeah, and I feel like they're more centered. I don't know what I'm saying.
So I mean, let's just we'll just conscious of the time. Let's just kind of
get to the end of the bit.
Yes, wrap up. So the final scene, we see Bucky meet up with Io, I think is her name. So Dora Milaje, who was in Black Panther and Civil War, and maybe she was also in Infinity War and Endgame. I don't remember her, but she was there. So that brings up, it's very much a Quicksilver thing from WandaVision. This gives me so many questions. Now I'm thinking to myself, are they going to go to Wakanda? Are we going to see other Dora Milaje, Okoye maybe? And I don't want to kind of get too speculative, but the creator did say that in episode 5 there is going to be an appearance of an actor that will make you cry.
No.
And I don't want to be too speculative, but if the Dora Milaje are here, and if we're possibly going to go to Wakanda, is Chadwick Boseman going to be in this as T'Challa?
I
mean, that's a big reach, I know, but I think there are so many interesting avenues they could take with this, and not only with cameos, but you're now putting Sam and Bucky on the line against the Wakandan government and the American government. They're kind of going against this kind of whole idea, and Zemo, to answer for his crimes in Wakanda
go against
as well.
the run. Yeah. Going on the run.
Going on the run, yeah.
Going on the run. So that is pretty exciting at the end. Wakanda really wants Zemo, for the things that he killed T'Chaka, So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen next.
Definitely.
Worth like some Wakandan Wakandan soldiers fighting against Bucky or with everyone. I don't know.
There's loads of interesting avenues that could be taken. The super soldier serum. 20 were made, and we know of 8 that have been taken. So who are the other 12? There's still some more stuff with Isaiah to kind of go on. They kind of talk about how they experimented on another super soldier, which kind of links into his stuff. There was the conversation, a really good conversation about the shield, and Sam not wanting to take up the shield and saying to Bucky, maybe I should have destroyed the shield because what it represents is, this government that treats people especially as you see through Sam and Isaiah treating especially black people really badly, and he's saying maybe I should destroy it, and then Bucky's saying, well, I wouldn't let you destroy it, and maybe I'll have to take it up. So the idea of who has the shield as well, it's all extremely interesting, and I must say a couple of little notes. I thought that Sharon kind of left a little quickly. I've talked about how I would have preferred to see Zemo a bit more. I didn't really like his prison break. I thought the comedy in this episode was a bit boring, a bit just there were many jokes that I wasn't that impressed with.
It wasn't that too comical, but I mean...
Yeah, it wasn't as sophisticated as I felt it was before. I really, the butler, for example, I wasn't a fan of that butler character. But other than that, I mean, it's still going really strong, and halfway through, remember, this is at the halfway point, and it's already better than all of WandaVision for me. So that's great.
Yeah. The stuff that I don't really like. I wish there was more stuff that Zemo could do in this episode, but I feel like he's a bit just standing there, just talking.
Okay.
But I kind of wish that he was pressing a lot of buttons, like Bucky and Sam, going over the areas and trying to say, "Oh, you're a team," or they could have done something against the team,
challenging their dynamic a bit more.
Yeah, more dynamic between them. Yeah, more.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Cool.
So
right.
Let's go to our main segment, and let's talk about Star Wars Clone Wars. Not the Clone Wars, Clone Wars, the 2D microseries from all the way back in 2003. This was made...
That was the year I was born.
Wow. I was wondering what you were going to say there. That was the year I was killed. But yes, it was the year that both of us were born.
Yeah.
Yes, this was made as kind of like a bridge between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, made by Genndy Tartakovsky, who people might know from Samurai Jack. He did all the the animation and stuff. And
that's where that kind of it is really like Samurai Jack. Yeah, that's a really cool show.
Yeah, so this has just been put on Disney Plus as part of the Vintage collection. We could have watched any of these. They put on the 2 Ewok movies, the Ewok TV show, and The Faithful Wookiee, the animated segment from the Star Wars Holiday Special. So thank God we didn't watch any of those. I kind of picked the best out of the bunch to talk about. But yeah, so what did you think?
Okay. This is so this show. So these 2 volumes, they are the definition of overwhelming.
Yes.
There's so much going on with the action, and I really like the animation. The animation's just really cool, but I just felt really just a bit really distracted with everything's going on. I feel like, what happened to and it's just a bit too fast paced with me, and I just couldn't really concentrate on the stuff, because usually with Star Wars they they just don't go in the action as much. It's just all about the characters. But this just felt just like an action filler, really. Just everything that was going on. But there was like some character moments that I really liked, especially at the end with General Grievous, fighting against all the other Jedi's. That was really cool, that one, and scary. Like that was really scary. And I just felt I don't know, it was just a bit different for me because I don't know. What about you, Tom?
Well, so this is the first time you've watched this, right?
Yeah.
So I used to watch this as a kid all the time. I had it on DVD, and I was in love with it. I loved the prequels. I loved this show. I loved playing Star Wars with all my friends and like being a Jedi and stuff. So in that sense, this has definitely got a special place in my heart. But if we just kind of start off by talking about Volume 1, I have to agree with you. It's so full of action and good action, I will have to say.
Yeah,
the animation's great, the music's great, the sound design, it's all great, there's loads of really fun sequences, but it's all just crammed into this, like, there's so much going on, and it doesn't really take a break to do some character stuff. I think Volume 2 definitely is so much better, it's so much slower, it's literally only, instead of being like 10 different narratives at once, it's just 2 narratives, and one of them's a slow one, and one of them's a bit more fast-paced. But yeah, especially in this first volume, there's just so much action happening all at once, and it can be, very, very overwhelming,
Yeah. It was just too much for me because, especially with me, I just process things a lot slower, and I just felt a bit.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. The whole thing is this kind of huge explosion. It really is. The way that I can see this is, this is almost what, if you were in the Star Wars galaxy, this is what the Jedi would tell you happened in the Clone Wars, This isn't canon anymore, obviously, but so, they wouldn't tell you of the Jedi's failures. They wouldn't tell you of, Mace Windu being like a really horrible guy, or Luminara Unduli, or anyone, or any of the personalities of the clones who would later become these merciless killing machines in Order 66. It's just, the Jedi being these absolute brutal forces to be reckoned with, They are, like, if you think about the Mace Windu scene, where Mace Windu, without a lightsaber, goes toe-to-toe with a whole army of B2 battle droids, super battle droids, barely breaking a sweat, just cracking through them, beating them with his fists. The Jedi really are one-man army in this. Like, they have so much power, and, like, their skill is defined in such a, kinetic way, and I think that's cool, but it loses some of the kind of depth to it,
Yeah, and I mean, there was a really cool stuff that I really liked, and I just need to. I'm just trying to remember what really happened, because there was too fast. So
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, the battle droids. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I really liked. Mace Windu was in one scene in particular.
Yeah, Mace Windu had one kind of action set piece.
Oh yeah, the one with this massive ship.
Yes.
Yeah, and just looming over, and just completely obliterating, or just stomping, just that.
It was a huge stomp.
I mean, it's a stomp that no one can stomp before.
Wow, yeah. It's the biggest stomp that ever did stomp.
Yeah, it's the stomp, and the stomp will never stomp.
The stomp to end all stomps.
The stomp of stomps.
Oh no. Avengers Infinity Stomp.
Oh. Stomp in... no. Once Upon a Time and Stomp.
Zack Snyder's Stomp.
Batman, the Stomp Knight.
In Stomp, no one can hear you stomp.
Stomp Wars. There we go.
Hey,
Stomp.
it's all come back. It's come full circle. Stomp Wars, the Stomp Wars.
Anyway, the massive Stomp. Yes. The Stomp. Yeah, Mace Windu. That was really cool. I just realised he doesn't have any dialogue.
No, he doesn't. He has dialogue in Volume 2, but
yes.
Yeah, it's like there's loads of segments. Like there's the Kit Fisto segment as well, and I have to say, Kit Fisto without his top on in the ocean, just swimming and with his lightsaber like rippling in the water is so cool. It's one of the most visually stunning scenes. But again, so much of it just wasn't needed,
Yeah.
Jeez, John, this really broke you, didn't it? This show really, I can hear in your voice that you're just like,
completely just messed my brain because with everything that just really happened, I just couldn't comprehend, with all the characters, there's one action scene, and I just have to process what everything just been through. It's like, you're watching John Wick, and it's just continuous.
It's
just like that. I just need to take a breather. Just what happened really, because but at the end, but no, it's just kept continuing, and I just didn't. I tried to be engaged, but I just felt like oh.
Yeah, definitely. I am as you know, John, I am a huge Star Wars fan. But
yes, you are.
Even I was like
massive Star Wars fan.
Even I was like, God, this is so intense. My brain might just explode. There's a lot. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that kind of introduced in this one. You get Ventress, who is Dooku.
You do.
Who's introduced as Dooku's apprentice, and in her first scene, she just defeats 12 monsters. She goes into this arena and just kicks ass.
Dooku.
John. Come on.
Don't kid me, man. I can't even speak. Okay. Dooku. Right. So Dooku was fighting against Ventress, and that was really cool. I really liked it.
Yes, they had that little fight. I think all of Ventress's stuff is some of my favourite stuff. I really enjoy her little fight with Anakin through the streets. And then it's really cool to see their fight at the end, the animation is so incredible at the end. The way that the red and the blue light works inside the temples, the way that they fight in the rain, and the way that Anakin goes full dark side to defeat her, and then he screams into the air. It's really, really cool. And if you kind of put that against some more character stuff, some more slow moments that developed some relationships, it would be so much more successful.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to process another thing what just happened in the show. Yoda. Yes. Trying to save some Jedi in the temple.
Yeah, that was probably my least favorite part of the episode.
Yeah,
Barriss Offee and Luminara Unduli get stuck in a temple on Ilum. Where they're collecting Barriss's crystal to make her lightsaber, and they have this really nice moment where she builds the lightsaber and it's kind of cool, but then they kind of find all these droids and they get trapped in the rubble, and then you get Yoda, 3PO, R2 and Padme kind of going through this snow-filled place in a blizzard. To try and kill,
just walking,
Yeah, this is there was this kind of comedy that I was just kind of yeah, okay. It just felt so random for just a like a 5-minute sequence. It was definitely odd. But I think there were redeeming factors like Obi-Wan. What do you think of Obi-Wan stuff? Because Obi-Wan obviously had he had this whole thing where he was like commanding the clones on the siege in the city, and he fights Dirge, the bounty hunter, who is just basically a squid, some weird squid tentacle monster underneath his armor.
Yeah, squid.
Basically, what did you think of that?
That's massive squid armor driving through through tanks, and is Mad Max style.
Yeah, there is a bit of Mad Max in there, definitely.
What did I even miss? Anakin fighting Ventress.
Yes,
I remember that alongside it.
My God, you are broken. This reminds me of our early days in the podcast where you were just like so confused as to what's happening. Wow.
With Tenet,
right, with Tenet, yeah, exactly. Right, okay, so let's move on to Volume 2 because that's so much like more slow moving, and there's so much more like to kind of unpack. It's a much easier watch. I watched Volume 1 in the morning, and I had to take like a 10-hour break before I was ready to watch Volume 2. So, what do you think of Volume 2?
I just felt pretty exhausted after watching Volume 1. I was a bit skeptical. Oh no, is Volume 2 going to be like another like like that really stressful Mario Kart level?
Oh wait.
That star level.
Before we talk about Volume 2, we have to talk about General Grievous.
Yes. General Grievous. Oof.
What a guy.
Oof. Oh, there was a lot of stuff with General Grievous in this one.
There really was. Right at the end.
With I forgot the names of the Jedi who were fighting Shakti,
yeah. So right at the end of Volume 1, he fights Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, Aayla Secura, Shaggy, a Jedi modelled off Shaggy from modelled off Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and his name is actually Shaggy, which is really cool. I'm not a huge fan of General Grievous. He's definitely my least favourite aspect of Revenge of the Sith. I think he's fine in the Clone Wars, but he's not that cool to me, in action-wise, he's fairly interesting, but character-wise, I've always found him a bit flat. And not that he's less flat in this one, but he is terrifying. Like, the way that, they hear him before they see him, and then he lands, and he has this just huge physical presence, and he fights all of them without even detaching his two arms, making his two arms into four. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It really is, just, he presents himself as such a force to be reckoned with, and I really, really like that.
Yeah. Also, I might be a bit static on Volume 2, because I watched Volume 1 straight away, and I watched Volume 2 straight after Volume 1, so I might be a bit... So I remember they what was it? They go to Hoth. Not Hoth. Do they? I don't know. I just
they're on Yoda's scene in Volume 1. In Volume 2, no, it's not on Hoth. It's just on another kind of snowy planet.
Oh, right. Because that's what I remember.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm so sorry. I just feel that with everything, I was just a bit overloaded with these shows. These volumes, I just feel a bit.
That's all right. I can
talk along it, and I just feel a bit.
I've got plenty to talk about Volume 2. So you just kind of comment when you're feeling like it, buddy. You can have a lovely little sleep, and I'll just One thing that the Clone Wars doesn't do is obviously it starts in the middle of the war. Anakin is already Jedi Knight. They don't show that kind of transition where he goes from Padawan to Knight. And what I really like, I can consider lots of this canon. I really can. In my head canon, this is kind of how a lot of it went down. He fought Ventress on Yavin 4, and Obi-Wan, the whole scene where Obi-Wan, says, it's time that we forgo this kind of master and student thing. It's time that we I stopped bossing you around. It's time we became brothers. And it's a really nice scene where Anakin becomes a Padawan, a knight. He gets his Padawan braid cut off, and he finally feels like he is, he's becoming,
better.
No, he's becoming an equal with the rest of them. If you take this as like, as the canon, it makes a whole lot of less sense why Anakin would turn to the dark side. In this, Anakin, he's finally got what he wanted. He's a knight. He's on level with the others, and then suddenly he's annoyed that he's not a master. In the Clone Wars, you see him slowly lose his trust in the Council. They keep on betraying him, and they keep on lying to him. There's a really nice line in one of the Season 4 episodes where he says, how many more lies am I going to be told by the Council? And it's really interesting to see that kind of development. But here, you don't really get that, and that's fine, obviously. But I really like to see him go from Padawan to Knight, and I thought that was really cool. And that whole montage where him and Obi-Wan are finally becoming this team, he's helping out other Jedi, other soldiers and stuff like that. That's really, really nice to see. As I said, the Jedi are just forces to be reckoned with in this. They are like unmovable objects. But then you get to see a bit of Anakin and Obi-Wan be kind of like bros. They are those brothers that they mention in New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan's trying to sleep, and Anakin's like, hey, look, I brought lunch. And then he's like, look, we can go into the city. And then Obi-Wan's like, well, we can just, you want us to crawl through a sewer? Well, let's just use these bombs. That's going to be so much more, so much easier. I really like stuff like that. But I must say, something that you see in both of these volumes is that the clones don't have, in the films, the clones don't have personalities at all. And then in this, the clones don't have personalities. It was kind of jarring having watched all the Clone Wars recently, where, as we said before, D. Bradley Baker gives all the clones such personality. They're all so different. They're all so unique. You love them all. And this one, they're just like, yes, sir. No, sir. They're very they have no kind of nuance to them. They're just faceless soldiers in an army. And I think in that sense, this definitely, it feels a lot less fleshed out, They don't, there's a really good scene in Volume 1 where the ARC troopers, go in a city and, fight some droids. And it's great, but it's not quite, that exciting without that kind of personality. They're a silent, force, but, they're not really people. And I think they kind of lose some of that humanity in this one. There's a moment where Commander Cody comes to Obi-Wan, and they don't feel like they know each other at all. So, whereas in the Clone Wars, they develop that relationship so much that when Cody eventually executes Order 66 in Episode 3, it feels so much more jarring that Cody has now become this merciless killing machine, and all these clones who were such good friends with all the Jedi, just turn on them just like that. I think that was, something that was definitely missing from this one. But I love Anakin's spirit quest in this. Yoda kind of talks about, Anakin hasn't gone through any trials. Not really. Not in the same way that they kind of consider it, but he's gone through a lot in the war. So they kind of think, well, yeah, this is a good time for us to, give him the opportunity to be, this... What?
I'm just agreeing. What you're thinking about? I'm just trying to remember some stuff about he's going on on this quest, and he's fighting Ventress at the end. I think that's what I can remember.
Yes. So you were kind of saying so Anakin and Obi-Wan go to this kind of snowy planet where all the men have been taken away in this village. And they are saying that this ghost hand will kind of save them. and they realize that Anakin, because he's got a robotic hand, he fits that kind of prophecy. So he goes into this kind of tunnel, and he has like all these like horrible visions, and it's really like brutal to see. And he frees all of these like mutated and experimented on soldiers who, eventually like, he kind of frees them all, but but in doing so, he has to like, shut down the power, which like causes his hand to kind of explode, his robotic one, that is. And he goes through this kind of like, he really taps into the dark side, and he comes back like properly like having changed, like there's this kind of like, the music in these episodes are so good, and there's this like one particular motif of like that they use like a load of percussion and drums. It was kind of like a Star Wars version of the Incredible Hulk theme that I kind of felt from that. And he kind of walks back, and Obi-Wan sees him, and you kind of see in Obi-Wan's eyes that he's kind of like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. A quick shout out I thought I'd mention, Obi-Wan is played by James Arnold Taylor, who plays him in the Clone Wars, and he's so good in the role. There are many actors here who play the same roles that they eventually would go on to play in the Clone Wars, which is just really cool to see. They all really fit their roles really, really nicely. But yeah, I really enjoyed seeing Anakin's Spirit Quest and seeing him properly take that transition from where he is at the end of Attack of the Clones to where he is at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. It's not as fleshed out as it is in the Clone Wars, but I could still consider these stories canon. Obviously, at the end, they go off to fight the Chancellor, and it's a different kind of context to that. So I think, other than that, you could definitely take this as that, and there's a kind of like an ongoing motif in this about like Qui-Gon. They kind of big up the fact that Obi-Wan says, I doubt even Qui-Gon Jinn could have prepared a Jedi for something like this kind of war. Anakin says that Obi-Wan is no Qui-Gon Jinn. They do kind of emphasize the fact that Obi-Wan was never ready to have a student, that that Qui-Gon was so much more prepared, and that he would have done a better job with Anakin. Something that I feel is underplayed in the films, and like there are these like huge bits of like kind of context and kind of background that you only get through looking into it a lot and kind of watching the films many times. But I like that this kind of attempted to get there. But on the other side of Volume 2, there was this whole Chancellor being kidnapped, this whole like droid like invasion on Coruscant, and it was very, very, very like, on the one hand you got the quiet Anakin story where he's going on this Spirit Quest, and I think that definitely excused the fact the other one was just this giant like explosion of battles, and I thought it was so good. On one hand you've got Yoda and Mace Windu and Saesee Tiin defending the skies. Mace Windu has this really, really cool like part where he jumps onto a vulture droid, and he like kind of taps into its wiring, and he like makes it kind of go wherever he wants, and that's really cool. It's cool to see Yoda kind of fighting and defending their home, which is something that you don't get to see in the Clone Wars because they never show, the Chancellor being kidnapped. So that's really, really nice to see and nice to revisit as well. I felt Saesee Tiin, he's got this really nice helmet, and like his whole stuff in space was again really cool. It gives so much more context to the weight of the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, which I really like, and I wish it was canon, and I wish that somebody told that story again. And then on the other side, you've got Shaak Ti with two other Jedi defending the Chancellor, and just the way that Grievous moves, the way that he attacks is just so unique in this show, and the way that they use the Force. They use it like, obviously you need a lot of concentration, a lot of focus to use the Force, so it's not something you can just use kind of willy-nilly. Yeah. But in this show, they use it like, so they use it as like a superhero would, as someone from the X-Men would, and I think it's cool just to see that these Jedi represented as such battle heroes. Really, really cool stuff. And then obviously seeing the Chancellor being defended by these heroes, and them all going up against Magna Guards. With like the trains going past and then like platforming, it's all really, really cool. And the way they build it all up with this giant battle, and it all builds to the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, I think it's very well done. And if I was back in 2003, I haven't seen the Clone Wars, I've just seen Attack of the Clones. I think this is the perfect thing that would have kind of, brought me into the mindset for Episode 3. And yeah, I thought Episode 1 was so much kind of action, and it was really overwhelming. And I liked a lot of it, but it really was, as you said, overwhelming. So much to take in. But Volume 2 was so much slower and had so much more substance to it. Yeah, I really like Volume 2, and it holds up. I used to love it as a kid, and I would still watch, each 5-minute segment, separately now, if I was kind of given it, if that was an option for me. That's the kind of thing that I'd really like to do. So yeah, I think that's all my thoughts. Do you have anything to add to that?
I'm just having a headache right now because...
Yeah, no, I get it. You're still processing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but...
No, it's fine. It's fine. That's cool. Well, I'll give you a chance to talk about something else. Let's talk... I know you're dying to talk about this. Let's talk weekly viewing segment. I know exactly what you want to talk about, and I'll give you that chance.
Okay. So this week, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
So this is directed by the legendary Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
And Tarantino, as you may have seen, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, and all other things as well as Kill Bill. And but this is a very different Tarantino film, and you can see the style in like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, but this one it's more on the take of like it's a love message to like the golden era of the film industry and in that area as well, and it works really well. Like if you listen to the soundtrack or like listen to the things that's going on in the movie, like with the radio stations, with the movie advertisements, all of that, and it just makes you so. It's just so immersive into this world of the '60s, and Tarantino does that really, really well. And you just feel like you're in this. You're part of this of this film as well. Like it's that immersive for me. And the characters. So I love Brad Pitt in this one. He just played really well as Cliff Booth. He's just a really cool character, and I really like how Tarantino references like a lot of stuff that really happened in the '60s. So Cliff Booth is a reference to an actor who, for that people thought Cliff Booth killed his wife, so that was a reference to a mystery in the '60s, to a man who, like an actor, I forgot his name. He killed his wife, but we don't know actually what really happened. So that's a mystery. So Tarantino leaves that a mystery, and like think about the character of Cliff Booth. So we think about a lot more about the characters, and another criticism I heard about was Margot Robbie wasn't much in this film, and they didn't like that. But I liked it because if you know what really happened in the '60s with Sharon Tate, she unfortunately got killed by the Mansons on the 8th of August 1969. But we see her, Sharon Tate, Sharon Tate being really happy, being free, and she hearing those really like the first time that you go into the cinema and you see yourself on screen and everyone's just laughing, and I really like that because it's unfortunate that she got killed by the Mansons, and the film gives out a really, really satisfying ending. And of course, it's called Once Upon a Time because Once Upon a Time there's gotta be a happy ending and satisfying as well. And Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, the chemistry between Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt is just great. I really like that, and they just brought so together. And I love the characters grow in this film. Again, I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack just makes you so immersive into this world of the '60s. So other things as well. The film is not Tarantino-esque, but the last 15 minutes is, which I really liked. But again, I think this is just like like exploration of like the world of like the golden era of the film industry of Hollywood, and it's definitely not the best, but not for me. It's not the worst. But I haven't seen any of the Tarantino films, but I just really like this one, and I just had a blast, and I'm glad I watched it. It's just a great film to watch right now. Like it's summer, it's kind of it's summer / spring at the moment, and it's just comfortable watching it, and I watched it with my family last night, and they enjoyed it, but they liked it, but they said, "Oh, it's not good as Pulp Fiction." So I give this film a 9 out of 10, but a couple of days ago I was thinking it could be a 10, but I'm not too sure because it is a really good film. But I wish there was some more stuff to it because it's supposed to be Tarantino, so you would expect that they would flip the script, but they did in the last 15 minutes. But again, this is what Tarantino wanted to have that love message to the final moments of the golden era. Leonardo DiCaprio did really well. And the setting of this is just great. Like the old style of the 60s, like the Cinemarama, Taco Bell, all of that in LA, and it's just great to see. That'll be it for me. 9 out of 10. I would recommend it. But I would give it another watch sometime. So it's great. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to like rewatch that film. I watched all the Tarantino films like at once, so like all one after another. And I definitely, apart from Death Proof, it's definitely my least favorite Tarantino film. There's something about the slice of I don't think that it doesn't feel like a Tarantino film. It still has the dialogue, still has the cultural references, still has like the pastiche that all his films bring, even though it's not quite as violent throughout. I think that the slice of life nature it doesn't work, especially towards the end. It kind of like skips over a lot of what the characters. You kind of see the characters kind of struggle to get to where they want to be, and then it cuts to them where they've already got it. It doesn't. I feel like it could kind of relish a bit more in the satisfaction of having it, even if that means just like 10 more minutes of screen time. I always kind of thought that was kind of my big issue with the film. But other than that, yeah, I agree with most of your points. Yeah, it is a real good one. But no, it's not Tarantino at its best for me. I have to agree with your family there, even though I'm also not the biggest fan of Pulp Fiction.
But
yeah.
Oh, fun fact: I watched Pulp Fiction over lockdown, and I really liked it.
I think you spoke about it on the pod actually.
I think you mean about like people saying, "Oh, it's so good, it's Tarantino's best." But the thing is, have they watched other Tarantino stuff? Because there's Kill Bill, there's Inglourious, there's Hateful Eight, all of those, and you can't go straight off the bat because you would need a certain arguments over the things about other Tarantino films. So yeah, so Pulp Fiction is quite overrated, but I really liked it.
Tarantino is definitely arguably an auteur. You go to his films and you have this kind of expectation because of all the things that he's laid out. And I think to truly understand any of his films, you need to kind of truly understand, him and his other films. And I agree with you. I was told Pulp Fiction is like the greatest thing you'll ever watch in your life, and maybe it's just expectation that made me not like it as much. But really, honestly, like, watching it, like, I was not nearly as impressed as I was by something like Reservoir Dogs, which, remains my favorite Tarantino film simply because of the simplicity of it, simply because of the way that it doesn't need to do 70 different storylines all told out of order. It doesn't need to have, scenes of people like, doing all these now super iconic things. It brings it in such a simplistic way, and it has so much more sophistication to it. Even though, I couldn't really... it's difficult to fault something like Pulp Fiction. There's a reason why it's so good and why it's so loved. I just feel like, as you said, the whole stigma behind it makes it just... It doesn't make me like it as much, in all honesty.
Yeah, and the thing is with like I feel like Pulp Fiction and Once Upon a Time, you can see like there's one thing that's similar. There's like no plot. You know what I mean? Like it has like a different structure.
I get that more for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that has less of a plot than Pulp Fiction, because Pulp Fiction has the briefcase that's kind of coming through the narrative.
Yeah,
it's funny. Pulp Fiction is very much kind of like the story of Marcellus Wallace as told through the eyes of his allies and enemies. I think is kind of how
I thought there was like lesser plot in the Pulp Fiction because like it's not a linear structure because like it's all out in chronological. It's not in chronological order, but it's.
I wouldn't say that therefore forgoes a plot.
And I mean, like, goes through with different characters and like how do we explain someone Pulp Fiction rather than I don't know.
I think I would explain it as the story of Marcellus Wallace as told through the eyes of his enemies and allies, because that's every character. It's his wife. It's his it's the guy who he paid to fail a boxing match. It's the people who he's got to get his briefcase. And each thing is tied to Marcellus Wallace in that film. Whereas I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, although easier to explain, has less of a plot because of that slice of life nature. It doesn't bring it in as, oh my god, people please, in the comments, you can hate me as much as you like for making this analogy, but it isn't as good as in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where the slice of life nature is all brought in at, like, it kind of culminates in the middle of the narrative, and everything becomes more important. It stops feeling like it was just thrown in there, and it becomes more important to the characters and to the plot. I can't believe I just compared a Tarantino film to a Diary of a Wimpy Kid film.
You did. You just.
Oh no.
So we'll be. I don't know if Tarantino. Tarantino is going to take his time for his last film.
Well, last film, unless he does Star Trek or Kill Bill 3.
Kill Bill 3. I think he is going to do Kill Bill 3 because,
yeah,
it's possible because he's going to go,
Yeah, I feel like he would because he loves making movies, but I also feel like it's a stretch, Like, the narrative of Kill Bill is finished, and obviously there is a way that you could do it. You could bring back Black Mamba's daughter, but I just feel like that might be a little bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it from me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But Good. It's a great film. Yeah, so I'm excited to watch. I'll be watching other Tarantino films over the holiday of this break. So, yeah, so expect me from talking more Tarantino stuff. Yeah.
Well, last week I talked about how I'd watched X-Men Apocalypse, and I talked about how I used to like it, but now it's bad. And as promised, John, I told you this the other day when we saw each other. As promised, I'm going to talk about X-Men Dark Phoenix. And my god, I have always... So obviously this came out, 2 years ago? And ever since I watched it at the cinema, I've had it on DVD for quite a while, but I haven't rewatched it. I've only watched it once, until this week. And I've always been watch it again. Yeah, I know. Oh my, he's leaving. I can hear him. He's far away. He's gone. He's left me. I've always been I've always been quite apologetic about this film. I used to like some of the stretches it takes with the characters, and I still like that. It's still interesting perspective. However, it's incredibly dry. The characters are just shells of the actors bring a fair the actors bring a fair amount of charisma to them, but they're written so blandly. Their chemistry and all their relationships are rushed in between movies. It barely feels like these are a formed team. It feels like this film would have worked better with an X-Men team that we'd seen form and develop over a couple of films, not just shoved together at the end of Apocalypse and then just shipped off 10 years later. It all felt so rushed. The villains were just the worst. They were literally potatoes. They had nothing to them. Like they were just like faceless, boring. Like they even looked just like
no,
people. They weren't like any. They were really just like they weren't even like interesting looking mutants. They weren't even mutants. They were aliens. The action is fine, but it doesn't use the powers in any interesting way. And whenever it does, they use the powers in such a way that it's like, well, you could have done that way earlier, man. Like the action is shot fine, but it just all comes together in this kind of weird, kind of bland looking thing. Like. The interesting stuff will be the drama going on, and then there'll be an action scene for no real good reason. And things are all kind of characters are brought in halfway through who will then kind of have a big bearing, but let no time for them to be developed or anything. They also feel like they don't kind of understand the weight of the powers. There's a scene where Jean Grey and Magneto have this kind of powers off where they both try and like keep a helicopter. Magneto's trying to get the helicopter to lift, and Jean's trying to keep it onto the ground. And they're both just kind of standing there going, ah! Like, there's no kind of weight to the powers. There's no, like, electricity crackles or anything like that. It could be so much more impactful. The score is great. I have to say, the score is great. But other than that, it's just so bland, and it really is a wet fart to kind of leave the X-Men franchise on. Like, if you look at it all chronologically, obviously you've got Logan, but, like, if you look at it as it came out, it was this, and then I just want to say sorry if anyone can hear some banging. Someone's doing some hammering near me. But anyway, like it's really like you'd watch all the X-Men films, most of which I would argue are good, and then you get Apocalypse, and then you get Dark Phoenix. Obviously, you get Apocalypse, which is bad, and then Logan, which is great, and then you get Dark Phoenix, which is real bad, and then New Mutants. Like, what is even the point? Like. It felt like they should have stopped the X-Men films at Days of Future Past, done Logan, and just be done with it, And I have to say, in the future, unless I have a really, 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 really good reason, I will not be watching Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix again. When I rewatch the X-Men films, I'll be doing First Class, the original trilogy, the Wolverine, Days of Future Past, and Logan. That's, like, it all went on for so long. And,
good. I'm glad to hear that, because
thank you. It's bad. It's bad.
I do not spend my time watching bad films, because I just feel that just really makes me. It gives me more hatred.
Definitely,
I think.
Definitely. I do have to say though, I still love the X-Men films, and I think people are way too harsh on them. There are some incredible films in there. Obviously, Logan. First Class, X-Men, X-Men 2, Days of Future Past, even 2/3 of the Wolverine, There are some great things in there, and I think people don't give it enough kind of. I really hope the MCU does it well, but I also love those old films. But Dark Phoenix sucks. Sorry, it's the worst. It's real bad.
What would you give it out of 10?
3! 3 out of 10. I would not recommend it, but if you want to watch it because you're a diehard X-Men fan, it's on Disney+. God help you. What else have you watched this week, John?
The Nice Guys!
The Nice Guy! Oh, thank God, we're up something good now.
So, funny enough, I was on the couch, getting ready to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I saw that The Nice Guy was about to be on TV. So I was like, "Wait, really? Oh, let's watch it." So I watched it, and it's so good.
It is.
Let me tell you, it's definitely better than Once Upon a Time, because it's The Nice Guys. So Ryan Gosling, if you didn't know, an adult actress is killed, disappeared mysteriously. Is that how it goes? Or disappeared?
She's killed, and then there's another girl, Amelia, who is goes missing, and then 2 guys get hired to kind of find out what happened to her.
Yeah. So Ryan Gosling,
literally, I have to say, now I'm just going to kind of piggyback off yours here, because Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe are the best duo ever.
Yeah, I'll tell you that now. And so like the chemistry between them is just like hilarious, and it's just like it's weird because you wouldn't think of this duo. Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. How would you explain that to someone before the film came out, or anyone before that? Because that is a great recommendation for a duo, or like something that you would never seen in cinemas or something. So Ryan Gosling, he just steals the film for me because there's just a lot of funny moments that he does, and I wish Ryan Gosling was more in comedy films, but he does really well in serious films as well. I'll tell you that, like in Blade Runner 2049, yes. Drive.
There are so many scenes in The Nice Guys. So like where Ryan Gosling is the funniest like person ever. Like when he's swimming in the swimming pool, like it's literally the funniest thing. Like drunk Ryan Gosling is just hilarious.
Yeah, and like he's sitting in the toilet, and then he's sitting in the toilet, and then he's just like
trying to open the door.
Yeah, he's trying to open the door, but he just
where Russell Crowe like gives him a fracture in his arm,
and that whine he does like.
Oh god, it's hilarious.
And I just love the comedy. The comedy is just top tier. Like if you're watching, if you're down or you need something to pick you up, The Nice Guys is just there. Like Definitely. It is a really good buddy cop film.
It is.
It is my favorite buddy cop film. To be honest,
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz as well.
Yeah.
They're the same.
I would call Hot Fuzz better. I always thought that there wasn't much of the villain wasn't that memorable for me in The Nice Guys.
Oh
so,
yeah.
And then Hot Fuzz has Simon Skinner, the absolute goat. So like he kind of elevates it. Say again.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. Shut it. That's great. But no, yeah, The Nice Guy's awesome. I just want to give a shout out to Shane Black, who directed that film.
Shane Black.
He writes films so cleverly. His dialogue is amazing. Well, not always, in fairness, but his writing is always so well done and so well put together. Iron Man 3, which I think is an underrated gem. It's definitely...
It is a very underrated gem.
It's so good. It's so incredibly good. And the amount of times a week that I'll be calling my girlfriend and be like, I want to watch Iron Man 3, but I don't want to like start watching the MCU again, like because I know I'll watch one and I want to watch them all. And if you've seen any of the other Lethal Weapon films, which are like classic buddy cop films, he's just really good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I just really love everything. Again, well, it's just funny. It's just really funny. Yeah, and it is a masterpiece.
That's a bold claim.
It is. It is. But I don't want to deduce it, but it's just. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh, 9.5.
Because I really, really, really love the film, but it's just the villain. It's just the villain. That's all.
I go for 9 or 8. I'd have to watch it again. But yeah,
it is a masterpiece, but it's just that 0.5 deduction is just it needs to be fixed. Like the villain. I wish the villain was a bit memorable. Yeah. So yeah, I really love that film. So I recommend it as well as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 2 great films. What about you, Tom? What have you been watching?
Well, the final thing, because we're getting on a bit, I'll try and be quick. Is I finished reading. I started reading this ages ago. I'm very ashamed that I only just finished it. But The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Literally, I've read this comic before. Ages ago, so long ago in fact that I literally couldn't remember any of it. I read it when I was young, and I shouldn't have read it when I was young. It's extremely dark, but I did. I'm not even sure I read it properly. I might have just looked at the pictures, but for the sake, I read it before. And so, but I've forgotten so much of it that my only real understanding of it was what I'd seen in Batman v Superman or just like around the internet. But I haven't seen the animated film, hadn't read it in a long time, and so I picked it up again before Justice League came out. Obviously, I only finished it just this week, literally just yesterday. But I really, really enjoyed it. It's a really good look into Batman's psychology and how he struggles to give up the role. And And I really enjoy that aspect of it. The way that the world has changed and the way that he has to come into this different world than the one he started off in is so interesting. And all the characters are so done really well. The action's done well. The dialogue is done well. I really enjoyed the way that the news reports kind of work within it. And there are loads of times that I noticed lines that Batman v Superman take straight from it. Really, really cool. However, and that's pretty much like great. The only thing that I would say, obviously, I want to keep this quite brief. The only thing I would say about it is that it feels like it's split into 4 books, and each one feels like its own story. There's the story of Batman, coming back into Batman, and then the story of the mutant gang, and then the Joker, and then Superman, which is all fine. It just felt like towards the end, the whole Batman v Superman fight that happens was it was almost kind of out of nowhere. It felt like it wasn't built up enough. It wasn't kind of, I didn't really understand the motives behind it. They could have lent into the Superman kind of working with the US government a little bit more for me. But other than that, I mean, I totally understand why it's so iconic and why everyone loves it and why Zack Snyder wants to kind of base his Batfleck stuff off that. I think it's great, and yeah, I love it. Definitely, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
I really like this comic as well. It is one of my favorite comics to read from time to time. And the best thing about comics is that if you haven't read a comic for a while and you come back, say, for a year later, it's just like the best experience. Like,
it is. There's so much that you forget. Like, there have been comics that I've read that I've been like, oh yeah, it was fine. And then I reread it and I was like, oh no, this is great. Like, a second, as I always say about films, about anything, a second viewing is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
And same with comics.
Yeah, so another thing that really happened, like, the best thing, like, so Endgame, Batman Endgame.
Yes.
The best thing was, like, I haven't read the comic for a while. I haven't read it, and I was like, let's read it, and it's just honestly one of the best comics book I've read. Is just that good, and the ending is just oof. It's dark and poetic, and it is a masterpiece. So
it is.
Yes. So
Scott Snyder,
man.
Yeah. On that note, actually, I want to say I will be reading The Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Strikes Again, sorry, and Dark Knight Master Race. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break this week because I literally just got. My girlfriend bought me American Vampire, written by Scott Snyder and Stephen King.
Oh, really?
Sorry, I didn't even know it was written by Stephen King, but that's awesome. It's written by Scott Snyder and Stephen King. That's mad. What? So I got the first volume, and I'm going to start reading it, so I'm quite excited about that.
Oh, wow. Stephen King and Scott Snyder?
Yeah, I know. A match made in heaven, some would say. So yeah, I hope I enjoy that one.
Oh, wow. So that's it from the weekly viewing, but...
it really is.
But there is another comic book that I really, really am looking forward to. It's called Dark Knight Death Metal. And This is the same universe. Well,
I swear you talked about this last week.
Yeah, I haven't talked about that last week.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe this is the conversation that we had. I don't know, John. It's all becoming the same.
It's not the same, man.
No, I know. It's good.
Oh, you okay? So
Neil.
This is the same idea. Like, if you it's incredibly well set up. Like, if you know what happened in the New 52 of Batman's run, it's set so well for the Dark Knight Death Metal. So Dark Knight Metal. Sorry. And there's a lot of story in this Dark Knight universe. That story multiverse, sorry. And there's a lot of graphic novels for it. So I'm not going to get all the graphic novels, but I'm definitely going to get Dark Knight Death Metal because it's Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. But I just love Greg Capullo's artwork. It's just great.
It's great.
It's just so lifelike, and it's just it's comical at the same time. It's just, you know what I mean? That balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So that'll be it from the week of viewing, and I'll be reading some graphic novels this week.
Sweet. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. As always, we are literally teetering on the edge of this becoming our if we stayed here for another 6 minutes, this would be our longest podcast episode. So it really flies by. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. As always, next week we are going to be doing Restore the Snyderverse. We're going to be talking about the proposed, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, Man of Steel 2, a Batfleck show, and Justice League 2 and 3. We're going to be talking about, what we'd like to see if that did happen, and all the kind of benefits and advantages and disadvantages of that happening. So I'm quite excited for that. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. There are 31 other podcasts you can sink your teeth into, and obviously we'll be doing more every week. We've got plans going in distant future, and if any of you have been waiting for a while, we're going to be doing Wonder Woman in 1984 very, very, very soon.
Very, very soon.
Definitely. And, but yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at ousetimefilmpod@gmail.com or get in touch with us at Instagram or Twitter at ousetimefilmpod. I am Tom the Baldwin on Twitter.
I am Comedy John 42 on Twitter.
Were you yawning there?
What?
Were you yawning there? I think I heard a yawn.
Sorry, what?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Neil. Jesus, I'm so tired. Anyway, so yeah, if you enjoyed it, stick around if you want to see more. And yeah, stay safe, everyone. And yeah, anything else?
Right, cool. Thank you for listening in. Stay safe. And enjoy another week of new stuff this week. And if you want to comment on stuff that we want to talk about, please do.
Yeah, leave it in the comments below as well. We still want to get that weekly answering lovely email segment off the ground. So yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be it.
Will.
Thank you. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.